Series, we will get an inside look at the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. Join us as we ride alongside patrol, traffic, and canine units, witness the versatility and grace of the mounted unit, and step inside the world of drug investigation and forensics. But that's just the beginning. We'll also get a look at how our officers are committed to serve with empathy and respect. This is more than just policing. This is your RNC in action. Welcome to today's episode of your RNC Compassion in Action. Today, we'll speak with Sergeant Chris Green of the RNC's Weapons and Drug Enforcement Unit, a unit that was developed in response to activity in firearms and drug trafficking in our community. And later, we'll speak to Constable Michael Shea, a drug recognition evaluator working within the RNC's traffic services. First, join me with Sergeant Green in the RNC's forensic laboratory as we learn about some of the evidence gathered by the Weapons and Drug Enforcement Unit.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, these are some examples. These are some older examples of files that are concluded. So therefore, this is kind of dated evidence. But a lot of these firearms that we see, when they're in the possession of people who I guess illegally have them and use them, they're underneath couches, they're jammed underneath car seats, they're in consoles, they're on their persons. There's all those things, and they're all usually either used for self-defense at home in case there's rival drug dealers looking for them. And of course, in more unfortunate events, if the police were to show up, they become a safety issue for us as well. So these are just, like I said, some examples of things that have been seized by the police in somewhat recent years. But again, these are not active exhibits now, so we'll just kind of have some out there. And just one thing for this here now, so what we're doing here, when we seize exhibits, we will take them and we'll process them, I guess, for court purposes, for testing purposes. In this case, I do want to make it shown that these items, again, are not current evidence. This is for demonstration purposes. If we were to come out and do this, we would always have at least 2 officers here, but we would never process multiple amounts of, let's say, these kilograms of cocaine at one time. We would take one, do it separately. We would decontaminate the area, change our gloves, start again. We would never lay this evidence out in this fashion because you may actually contaminate it with other items. Same for the firearms. We would never have these out and test them at the same time for that exact purpose, and that just allows us to testify to the continuity of the exhibits in court as we would need to, I guess, to prove our cases through to the end. So what you're going to see here now is we're just going to kind of cut some of this open. We'll do some testing on the cocaine, just kind of show off some of what they look like and how we would do some basic processing of them once they're seized, and go from there. We've got and each of these kilograms of cocaine are brought in by a wholesaler, so somebody who would get this amount of drugs, the dollar value on this, now this has ranged, let's say, over the last 10 years. Back in my early days of drug work, one of these would have cost about $70,000 in this form. During the heights of the pandemic, it went up higher, closer to about 110, 120,000. And now we see values much lower than all of that, more along the lines of, I hate to say it, even 30 and less for one of these. So it's basic laws of supply and demand, just like any other business. And obviously the profits are made on the backs of the community. So that's where we're to with these. And of course, you'll see in media releases about things being broken down into street values and whatnot. That's a wholesale number. This brick of cocaine is 1,000 grams, which if sold at $80 a gram on the street is $80,000 cash for that one brick. So times that by 5, and that's the kind of profit margin you're looking at for something that can fit inside a small book bag. And that's the kind of stuff that we look for when we're watching, when we're doing drug surveillance on drug dealers. We will look for certain things that are indicators of drug trafficking, and sometimes it might just be a bag or the way that something moves or the way it's protected, and that's just one small part of what we do and how we prosecute our cases. The price of cocaine, it's definitely less than what it would have been, let's say 10 years ago or 12 years ago, but it's not to the same perspective as what the kilo has. So the end user is still paying close to the same amount. And of course, that's just going to drive up the profit margins for the people who are actually selling it at the street level and the mid-level, because I mean, there are different tiers of drug trafficker. You know, once these are broken down, there's every single member of that who wants to make their piece of their pie and who wants to take home their profits. And of course, it starts here with 5 of these, and then it ends up in something that's, you know, the size of your thumbnail. And from that level on, that's how the money just starts to grow for these people who are bringing illegal drugs into the community. So what we'll do here now is, we're going to go and we're going to use a presumptive test. Once it gets out, we'll kind of show you how that looks. So basically, with this being moved, and one thing we want to talk about here is, like I said, this is all evidence that it's been to court. So clearly, this evidence tape that's on this was put on by police, because these items have been taken apart before. They've been tested, they've been used in court, and samples have been done prior, which you'll see here with all these exhibit bags. So don't think for a minute that they come like this when we get them. This is something that's already been looked at, but the bare cocaine inside remains the same. And again, in this case, where this has already been tested, this was sealed back up for, to preserve what we could. But this is a standard practice amongst police forces in the country, that we will take these, the brick itself, which you get a good idea of, it'll be opened. We sample some of that. We'll use these cocaine wipes here, which are basically, it's a presumptive test. This alone in court doesn't actually stand. What we do is we'll use these tests. We will then learn that this is cocaine. We'll say, yep, this is test positive for cocaine. We then will take a sample, a very small one. We weigh it, we send it off to Health Canada, and Health Canada will actually do an analysis and then send us back a document which says this has been tested by Health Canada's lab. It tests positive for the presence of cocaine. It'll give you some more information, and that's what we enter in court to show that what we seized is in fact cocaine. This first test just kind of gives us evidence when we're looking at something to say, yep, this is cocaine. And as you can see, this came heavily packaged. Like, this is packaging that was actually done well before police ever saw it. So this was wrapped to help disguise that smell, which I know you can't catch it on camera, but it's kind of filling the air here. And then of course they take that to wrap it, and then you'll actually see another vacuum seal bag. There may have actually been another vacuum seal bag that was used, and they will double, triple wrap these to try to, and actually sometimes use agents. It could be like a spice, or it could be bounce sheets or anything that they'll actually try to use to mask the smell. For fear of, let's say, being detected by humans or canines at the airport, or however it is that they're going to use to traffic drugs into the province, then that's things that the suppliers will use to try to mask them so that they don't get detected by police coming through. It's just one of many tactics to try to, outsmart us and the community what we're doing. So as you can see here now, again, this here has already been dealt with in court, so we're going to handle this a little bit differently. But so we're going to take this test. You can see this looks like an alcohol wipe. It's very much pinkish red in color. And the minute that comes in contact with cocaine, it turns blue. And without a doubt, you can see that test positive for cocaine. So when we go and we see this, we can wipe those on various surfaces. Sometimes, like, you'll wipe them on scales or car dashes or anywhere. And when you see that turn blue, you can have the most minute amount, but when that turns blue, you can say, okay, well, there was either cocaine was here or this is cocaine. And then we still have to send them off and test them properly with Health Canada. But that's our presumptive test to say, yep, we've hit positive, this is cocaine. And then we can continue on with our investigation from that point.
The most commonly seized drug right now is cocaine. We do have a lot of recreational users in Newfoundland and Labrador of cocaine. They also see a fair amount of crack as well, mostly within certain populated areas they'll see that, but for the most part it's your powder form cocaine that they're having the most seizures of. What we were seeing in most recent years is a lot of our drug seizures were involving firearm seizures as well. So anytime our drug investigative unit would go in to execute a drug warrant, they were coming across firearms. So it was, I guess, safe to say that the firearms and drugs were hand in hand. And a lot of the firearms related calls that we were receiving all had drug undertones to them. We started with the Weapons and Drug Enforcement Unit started out as a pilot project. So we did notice that we were having an increase in firearms-related calls for service and intelligence coming in about firearms-related offences that weren't being reported to the police. So we thought it was really important to try to change our approach on how we investigate weapons offences. So we did a lot of consultation with our members that worked, in our major crime units, consultation with the officers in our drug enforcement unit, and just to seek some of their input. And through those consultations, we decided that it would be good to try a pilot project where we would work solely on proactive police work, is what I call it. So basically, it's intelligence and proactive led, so we're not waiting for a firearms offense to happen. We're out there trying to seize those firearms before the offenses occur. So we started as a pilot project in, I believe it was July of 2023. Our pilot project ran for a couple of months. It was very successful in led to numerous arrests and seizures of firearms and also drug-related paraphernalia. And then we decided at that point, after the successful pilot project, to go ahead and establish this unit as a full-time unit within the RNC. And just to give you an idea how it works, we have a criminal intelligence unit, which is pretty much the RNC's repository for all intelligence. So the intelligence is out there gathered by all of our officers. Sometimes it comes in through a communication center, and all that information is funneled through a criminal intelligence unit. The criminal intelligence unit would then feed the information to the weapons and drug enforcement unit of who the violent targets in our community are that are in possession of firearms and drugs. And then our weapons and drug enforcement unit will take that information and then start working on particular targets. Mm-hmm. So, to circle back to that, information is crucial. So we encourage everybody in the public, encourage anyone with any intel to come forward with that information. There's ways that they can provide that information anonymously. They can reach out and actually provide their information if they want. But we take all types of information at the RNC, and we work on that information to build our targets. Oftentimes, we receive calls here at the RNC from members of the public saying, "There's a drug house in my community. They're at house A, B, or C. Please go do something about it." With the expectation that we're going to rush into that house, kick that door open, and go in and seize the drugs and arrest someone. There is a lot of work that needs to be done before you can ever get to that point. So the officers, once they receive that information, are covertly out there trying to figure out what is actually going on at that house, because some people's perception of a drug house and a house that people are using at are sometimes two different things. So they need to go and build their grounds, build their case, gather the evidence, present that information and by way of judicial authorization to a judge, look for authorization to go into that home. And the main thing is they have to be able to set out their grounds of why they need to go in there and be able to articulate to a judge why they know that that's happening in that house. And then the judge will give them permission, obviously, to enter the residence for a purpose of a search. So there's a lot that has to happen in the background before you can ever get to that point. So it's not as easy as we show up, we kick in a door, we walk in, we take the drugs, we arrest people and put them in jail. I wish it were that easy, but there are certain laws that we have to follow. And a lot of people call in on these drug houses, not necessarily selling from the houses. There is probably a lot of back and forth of people going there to use. So there's a little bit of a difference between using in a residence and actually selling from a residence. So there's a lot of work that they have to do to figure out what is really happening at this residence, and then trying to proceed to see if they have enough evidence to move forward, with their case on that. It makes me very proud to see the work and the dedication that these officers have in the Weapons and Drug Enforcement Unit. For that part, pretty much the whole organization, of how dedicated our officers are and how they put their lives at risk every single day to make sure that these firearms and the drugs are off the street so they can't harm anybody else. I look at the officers doing the proactive work, which means they're not reacting to something that's happened. And the enthusiasm and the love for their job that they have, and the work that they do, and the extra hours that they put in, and the after hours and away from their families, of all the stuff that they do just to make our community safer. I know that the public doesn't see it, but I see it. And it's I'm very proud of what they do. I think that they're an outstanding group of individuals who are very driven, And I think that if our community knew exactly what they were doing, they would be extremely proud and thankful of the work that they do.
It's very interesting to see the processes carried out by the Weapons and Drug Enforcement Unit as they gather evidence in investigations. It is very difficult for us to give you a true glimpse into this section, as they are very much bound by legal parameters of prosecution. Now let's join Constable Michael Shea, Drug Recognition Evaluator at the RNC, as we learn about alcohol and drug detection in impaired drivers.
So welcome to the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary Impaired Driving Room. I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens when someone becomes arrested for impaired driving by alcohol and drug, and we'll walk through the room and some of the processes that we will entail. As we enter the room, again, there's not much in here, but right directly over here is our lawyer room. So if someone comes in, they read the rights and cautions, they have the opportunity to speak with a lawyer. And speaking with a lawyer, they're placed in this room here. This room is a quiet room, so us as officers can't hear what's happening on the outside of the room. That gives them a bit of privacy to speak to a lawyer and get their private advice from them and actually get a good opportunity to speak with them without us being present. So as you can tell, it's a bit daunting inside. It can be intimidating with the black walls and everything. It's a very safe room. There's a telephone that allows the person to call out. We will call the lawyer for them most times and explain to the lawyer what's happening, so then the lawyer can understand exactly the process and what we're doing in here. As we're coming through, you can see there's not much on any of the walls here or any of the rooms as we approach them. That's more for officer safety and for the safety of the subject. There's nothing that can be used as a weapon, but it also kind of just hopefully brings their demeanor back a little bit lower. Nothing stimulating, nothing to get them too excited. As we look in here, this is our drug recognition evaluation room. It plays into a dark room. As we come in for further testing, we can close the door and look at the person's eyes under a dark room light. Allows us to do that there. As we come down through our room, this is one of two breathalyzer rooms or Intox ECIR rooms, which we can operate out of this unit. So as I'm coming through this, we have alcohol standards. So you'll hear the instrument is checking for ambient air temperature now. So if we have someone who is perforating a lot of alcohol, that purge fan on the side here will bring the alcohol into the instrument, and it'll go, you got to move that person because there's too much ambient alcohol in the air. So as I'm going through my checks, I ensure that the dry gas, which is a tank inside here, which is a substance of alcohol that's tested by the RCMP Forensic Lab to ensure its accuracy. And two certificates are produced with it, so two toxicologists actually looked at it and said that this is certified for use within Canada. The instrument will take that sample in and analyze it, and then you'll hear the purge fan blow all that alcohol back out. And the result will come up here for us, so we ensure that it's working properly. And the target value was 80 milligrams, and the sample came back, and it'll come up and say alcohol standard passed. So we ensure that that is working properly. Purge fan comes out because it just drew alcohol in the instrument. We don't want any stagnant alcohol left there. Purges all that out of the fuel cell, the electrochemical cell, and the mouthpiece. So I'm going to get you to stand up next to me. This is a brand new mouthpiece. I just took the perforation off. I have it touched on this side so my hands haven't contaminated the mouthpiece at all. Put them there. I'm going to get you to stand with your hands down by your side because I'm going to control the mouthpiece. Okay. When you provide a sample, I'm going to get you to make a tight seal around the top. Take a nice deep breath and blow consistently, and keep trying to increase your breath. So once you start, do not stop. Just keep trying to increase your breath. I will walk you through it as you go through. You will hear a tone. The tone is good. Just keep going until I alert you to stop. Okay? Okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
Take a nice deep breath.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
When you're ready. Keep going, keep going, keep going. A little harder. Keep going, 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 keep going. There you go. Now you can take a seat back down. So that will analyze the sample now, and it'll come through. So that'll provide the subject sample number there, and then we will provide investigators time and date and all that, because it could be different from what the instrument is, and it could be different from mine. Everybody has a different watch, And that's the reason why that would be, is because if someone gets arrested at a certain time, they have 2 hours to provide a sample into this, or we have 2 hours to get a toxicology sample. So therefore, the time is very important to the investigator instead of just a normal time. Again, that'll purge out. It'll come back through the blank sample, because then it'll show us that once the sample was taken, we're taking another clean sample of ambient air, and you'll hear that click again, which shows me that the fuel cell is working, and then it'll provide me another blank sample coming back. And then there'll be a 15-minute wait period. We have to wait 15 minutes in between tests. A person's designated or obligated under the criminal code to provide 2 suitable samples of breath. The transposition of alcohol is in your lungs. So we talked about earlier, Henry's law is 2,100 parts of carbon dioxide to 1 part alcohol. And it's in your alveoli, which is deep lung air. So that's what we're looking for. Anything up shallow we're not looking for. We can still get it, but it'll come up as a shallow breath, and it won't be enough substance to get. So we're looking for that deep lung air, and that's why it feels like, oh my God, I'm almost getting ready to pass out, but you're not going to, and it clicks. So that's where that big transposition of gases occur down in your alveoli in your lungs. Tolerance level is great, but when we look at alcohol, we're not really worried how tolerable you are for alcohol. We're worried about what percentage you're at. Some people are going to go, can I drive on 2 beer? Can I drive on 3 beer? Can I drive on 1 beer? My suggestion is drive on 0 beer. If you're going out and having a drink, plan your night. Plan your night. I'm not saying that you can't go out with your wife and have a glass of wine and come home, but plan your night. If you're planning on going out and drinking for a night, plan before you go. Have someone pick you up, have a cab pre-ordered, have an Uber pre-ordered. Yep. There's lots of options there that you can plan your night. Yep. But a tolerance level is significant when you look at the outward signs of impairment. Yep. But when we look at alcohol, we know that everybody is impaired at 80 milligrams percent, regardless of your tolerance level. Mm-hmm. I could drink 10 beer, someone could drink 3 beer, and we're both impaired. Mm-hmm. It's irrelevant. Yep.
So here at the RNC, we have multiple tools to detect impaired driving, not only just for alcohol, but for drug and for combination of alcohol and drug. I'm going to walk through which tools we have and what they're used for. The first one I will talk about is what's called an improved screening device. Again, like the Intox, there's a lot of different devices out there that we can use. This is the one that we went with. That's the newest version that we can avail of. It's called Alcohol Sensor FST. Mm-hmm. It's very small, very easy to use for the officers, but it's also very quick and easy to use for the motoring public. These are used to detect impaired driving by alcohol. So if an officer suspects that an operator is operating under the influence of alcohol, they will administer this test. There could be a reading from 0 to 50. That means that the person is below the provincial limit, and therefore they can operate. Not necessarily means that they're not impaired. It just means that they're not above the provincial limit for this. There comes up as a warn, which is between 50 and 80 milligrams percent. Therefore, they're above the provincial limit, but not above the criminal code. The person will then be, like I said earlier, cited for a 7-day suspension of their driving privileges and 7-day seizure of their motor vehicle. This is very quick to use for the officers. It's very innovative for the motoring public. When the officer suspects it, they will provide a demand. If the operator refuses to comply with this demand, it's a charge under the criminal code of refusal of demand. The operator has to provide a sample into this once the demand is provided, because the officer has reasonable suspicion that there's alcohol in the operator. And within that, we look at drug testing. And drug testing is kind of newish to our driving society, where we never had any ways of testing driving by way of cannabis before. So that's a new tool that we had come out. There's 2 in Canada that we can use now. This is the Abbott Setoxa. This tool is detect cannabis only. It has the ability to detect cocaine as well, once the strips become approved by the Attorney General of Canada. That's why we haven't been used them yet, because they haven't been approved. So once they're approved, we will be able to detect cocaine on this as well. And the other one is the Draeger 500. So again, depends on which province you're in and what they purchase, they can either purchase the Abbott Setoxa or the Draeger 5000. Both of them have the same outcome. Both of them are looking for cannabis and what level of cannabis is present in the person. Right. And then that allows the officer at suspicion, they get a smell of cannabis in a vehicle, they use this device, and again, it has an oral swab that comes with it, and a cartridge. And they're not really, we can't change what the cartridge is going to say. All right, it is no different than any other test that we're going to use, and everything is dated, everything is lot numbered, so we ensure that the lab looked at it and said, yeah, this is good to use. A toxicologist said there's nothing here. And the date, this ensure that they're not expired. These kits that we're using today are, but most of them aren't. So this is just a fluid test device. So that gets put in the person's mouth. It rubs in around under their tongue, under their cheeks, to get saliva. Mm-hmm. But we're looking to more than saliva. We're looking for oral fluid, what contaminants are in their mouth in correlation to drugs, mainly cannabis. Mm-hmm. So that'll go around the person's mouth, and that can take a little bit of time, around 2 minutes, to get enough analyte on it, enough sample. Mm-hmm. And then from there, this is the test cartridge. So this reads the cartridge, is really what it does. This is a cartridge that will test for cannabis, and us as officers don't read this. Mm-hmm. This gets put directly into the device, and the device will read it. So then it takes that kind of ambiguous out about, was it changed, is there color change there, was there not a color change, is it positive, is it not positive? This does it on its own, so it takes that a bit of interpretation out for the officers, and it takes that liability off them to say, yeah, the instrument is working, it's serviced, and it's detected for cannabis. Yep. So then the officer would arrest a person for impaired driving, right, and bring them back here for further testing as a DRE. Yep. These two instruments are great for alcohol and for cannabis impairment, but we have the ability to detect for all drugs. Mm-hmm. Again, prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, yep, any drug that's taken into the human body that impairs their ability to operate a conveyance. So it could be prescription drugs. It could be anything else that we look at that can impair that person's ability, either vision, cognitive, to operate a conveyance. Right. And we have the ability to detect that at a suspicion level as well, conversely with these tools. And it's called standard field sobriety testing, where a person would have to, as is by demand as well, and they have to do it, perform 3 battery tests. One would be horizontal gaze and nystagmus, one would be the walk and turn, and the other one would be a one-leg stand. Mm-hmm. And the officer then at that point would determine if the person will be released, as they don't have any grounds to believe that they are impaired by drug and or alcohol, or they would arrest them and bring them back for further testing to a drug recognition evaluator.
There are certainly challenges when we try to give you a glimpse inside the work of the RNC. There's privacy restrictions, as well as legal parameters to consider. We're glad you joined us today so we can give you an idea as to how a day looks for the Weapons and Drug Enforcement Unit, as well as the expertise of the drug recognition evaluators at the RNC. Join us next time on York RNC Compassion in Action.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
We want to hear from you. Provide feedback on this show or find out how you can get involved. Call, email us, or scan the QR code to take our quick survey.
There aren't many hospitals left in this town that are willing to take a risk on you.
Mondays on City TV.
We have a new attending, Dr. Oliver Wolf.
Dr. Wolf? Wolf?
Wolf!
You can call me Wolf or Oliver.
We might actually learn something for a change.
There's no one who's more devoted to their patients than you.
We are going to figure this out together.
Where you get into trouble is with the establishment.
You took him to a bar.
Yeah, but look, there's a method to my madness. Okay, I love you, bye.
Wolf?
Brilliant Minds, all new, Mondays 10/9 Central on City TV.
This fall on Rogers TV, we'll be airing Your RNC Compassion in Action. It's a glimpse inside the world of Newfoundland and Labrador's Provincial Police Service, as we collaborate to provide the highest standard of policing to our communities, whether it's a ride with patrol operations, police dog services, forensic identification services, or the many other sections of the RNC. Join us this fall on Rogers TV and step inside the world of the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary.
Mo.
The moustache is calling. Raise funds, save lives. Donate at Movember.com.
This is Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laura Beltonbach, and we got quite the lineup for you today. Start off the show with an interview with Shannon Crotty, who is a medical and cosmetic tattoo practitioner. After that, I get the chance to sit and chat with Hillary King, who is the retention coordinator for Study and Stay NL, which is part of the International Education NL. So sit back, relax, and we'll get right to it.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by the one, the only, Shannon Crotty, who is a cosmetic and medical tattoo practitioner. Shannon, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm really excited to have you here because